What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Today is Best Served Podcast 366. Talking how much does time matter to a chef? And mostly to me. That's what we're going to talk about today. No script, just want to talk about it. All right. So I actually did a Instagram live rambling about how right now it's 4:40 in the morning and how I was up at 3 recording an episode about a restaurant only offers these two things. You should definitely check that out. I'll probably drop it in the comments somewhere. And I had a 4 a.m. call. I was really pumped about it. And this feeds into this conversation today because time, our relationship with time in restaurants is volatile. It is very unique, and it's something that I want to talk about today. But I have 4 a.m. call. So I have Calendly meetings. I have a whole bunch of different types of meetings. I think there's like 10 of them. And I have 14-minute, 24, 38, 56-minute meetings. Obsessed with time, very specific. Want to value everybody's time. Your time, my time, why this is going to be less than 14 minutes, quick, easy to consume for you, so that maybe you get a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of information, a little initiative, a little value out of this conversation with your time, because I care about your time. It matters. And all of those Calendly meetings, I have a 4 a.m. availability, 4 to 4:30. And nobody takes me up on it. Everyone schedules, midday. Makes sense. Today, Adam Lamb from Chef Lamb Radio and I got to talk. Now he's out in North Carolina, so it's 6 a.m. for him. Still early, and I was very appreciative, very excited to be able to flex those early morning routine. Already showered. The hair's looking good. Some days when I get up at 2:30 in the morning, I barely can put on pants, but it's important for me to get up and have that time. And the only other person that really is up at that time with me and I get to interact with sometimes is shout out to my friend Sean. I can't even see your name, Sean. It's too early. Sean P. Walchef of Cali Barbecue Media, the Restaurant Influencers Podcast, Digital Hospitality Podcast, the true hustler entrepreneur of the food industry. Absolutely. So anyway, just a shout out about early morning stuff. Time. The relationship that we have with time is very fascinating, very unique, very much a strength and a weakness in the restaurant industry. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about all the different ways that we're constantly managing time in restaurants. I want to talk about, though, time as a construct for me personally. And I said this in the live, like impromptu, and I still can't remember exactly the details of it, surprisingly. But time became a very important idea and execution when I was, I think, in high school or maybe in college. It definitely came from Yellow Submarine, the Beatles animated film from the 60s, and a lot of psychedelics in my youth. And this is why I'm not sure if it was in high school when I first saw it. It was LSD, it was acid, and if it was in college, it was mushrooms. And so, trigger warning, after the trigger, there's a little bit of talk of consumption of drugs, which I did far too much of throughout my life and career. Absolutely. And there's a scene in that movie where they talk about how long a minute is. This idea of a minute being so long, so much longer than we think. We underestimate a minute. I don't think we do necessarily in restaurants, but most people do. And it basically is a count up from 1 to 60 of all these different Yellow Submarine-esque characters representing each of the numbers. And I just tripping balls, and a minute stretched out for an eons. It was forever. And the possibility of a minute became very profound and very real, very tactile, tangible in a way. And so when I found restaurants It was this controlled chaos and all the other things. And you hear me talk about so much of my own, personal journey therein. And it was just the amount of time. There's times on every single ticket, right? The time that it was rung in. There's the time that it takes to fire a ticket. There's the time that you're going up into the window, 30 seconds to the window. And there's table times. There's table turn times, there's reservation times, there is the time to greet a guest, there's the time to present the check, there's time, everything is time. The time something needs to cook, in the time that something needs to simmer, it's all time. There's so many things that are tied specifically to measurements and units of time. And so I think that creates a lot of consistency. We can count on time, right? Time is the only resource you can't buy more of. It is fixed. And so there's something comforting about knowing that time just is. Now, on the other side, time is always consuming the fuck out of your entire existence. When you were in a restaurant, you were always fighting against this finite amount of time, that you're always behind usually the time that you need to be, or being ahead of time is even not a good thing in many situations. You need to be just perfectly right on time, and that is a lot of pressure. And so the relationship that we have with time is very polarizing, like many of the relationships that we have within a restaurant. And that's what I've been thinking about it a lot. Now, I've also been thinking about time in much grander arenas, thinking about time in much longer terms as well. And I know you can't go a single fucking episode or me talking at all without hearing about my family legacy. I'm gonna tell you again. Fifth generation chef restaurateur. We opened our first restaurant in 1900 in Little Falls, Minnesota, called La Fond House. Then that was great grandparents, grandparents were in the industry, bar and restaurants, San Francisco. Three uncles owning restaurants, 3 different states, younger brother, even in the industry, and blah, 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 on and on. The reason that this is important to me is now that I'm an elder of this industry, having started at 17, 22 years in, going to be turning 40 this year, the big 40, having young children, right? I talk about this sometimes, and my eldest son is 7. He's closer in age to the age that I was when I started in the industry than I am. So he's closer to that moment in time. In 10 years, he would be the age that I am. And I ask myself this question all the time is, would I want them to be the 6th generation? And this sparked what Best Served really is, right? And the answer was fuck no, absolutely not. No way. This is a toxic, degenerative industry that I love and hate, that tried to destroy me, that I helped turn into this caricature of itself. So many emotions and deep-seated trauma and, again, joy tied to it. It's really complex and it's hard to unpack and pull apart. And so time now to me is like, I am doubling down on the belief that I have in that sense of belonging and purpose, that continuity of connection, that those feelings and memories that a restaurant can truly evoke for both those that work in the restaurant and those that are butts and seats, those guests. And so time to me is now a little bit of a legacy question. What time am I going to put in to be able to create something new and different? What time are you putting in just to survive the day to day? Respect, because the grind is so real and you get so chummed up in the minutia of what you do and how you do it. You forget why you do it and who you do it for. Are you doing this for yourself, for your family, for your team? And asking that question is really hard. It really, really is. Yet it's so fundamentally important. What are you spending time on? Because we value the things we invest in. And the most valuable thing you can invest is your time, because once again, it is the only resource that nobody can buy more of. So I want you to really, nobody can buy more of it. And so the relationship that we have with time and where and with whom and how we invest that time, to me, has become such an important and driving question. And so just that I get to spend this little bit of time with you, it really means a lot to me, because I value time so deeply and desperately. So I want you to think about that. How much does time matter to a chef? To me, it matters a lot. Inner workings of a restaurant, it's paramount. Yet don't allow the time to consume you. It will, if you let it. It absolutely will. So I'm hoping that, just a little bit of reflection, a moment of both looking back and then deciding what you're going to do with your time moving forward. It matters. It really, really matters. And more people out there are valuing their time, which unfortunately for restaurants means they're spending less time in the restaurants, both as guests and as employees. We need to really grapple with that and get to the core of why that's happening. Because if we understand why people are valuing time and the time they spend with us, the proverbial us in restaurants, I get to some really, really tough questions. They also might be enlightening, illuminating, and create a path forward, because that's what we're all looking for right now. And I hope I can be a part of that journey with anybody who's willing to think differently, to act differently, to create a new type of industry, a new type of environment, something that's equitable, profitable, and sustainable. Because what we built to this point, it's run its course. And it was a beautiful disaster. It really was. And I was honored to be a part of it. And I am deeply saddened of all the ways that I helped, relegate it into, again, being a caricature of itself. I'm willing to put in the time to build something different. I hope you are too. That's it. Appreciate you. Again, what was this? I'm doing my own show running here. It's clumsy. Best Served Podcast 366. How much does time matter to a chef? How much does time matter to a restaurant, to the restaurant industry? How much does time matter to you? It's an important question. I appreciate you all.